Today, I've got a very special topic and it's something close to my heart. My name is Jenny Rock from Jenny Rock Coaching, and I'm going to talk to you today about helping your child through trauma. Now, many of us have gone through domestic abuse situations to get here where we are right now today. And the thing that we need to always remember is that it's not just us that get damaged. In these situations, our children also get damaged, and it's really hard to know quite sort of what to do, how to do it. All of those things. We're just not trained. We just don't know what to do. So I thought today I would talk to you a little bit about it and maybe help give you a bit more information, a bit more support, a bit more help. And then obviously, if you want to talk to me about it, children's trauma is not my specialist area, I will tell you now. So the information that I am giving you is based on my research that has come from medical professionals, and it is not intended to be given as full and formal diagnoses or results, whatever. So just put a disclaimer in there, okay? This is from one parent to another. Okay, so children and teens are more vulnerable to being traumatized by accidents, pandemics, violent crime, or other disasters, including domestic violence. But with the right parental support, they are also able to recover faster. Okay? And being involved in a serious accident, violent crime, terrorist attack, global pandemic, or a natural disaster such as an earthquake or hurricane, or domestic abuse situations can be overwhelmingly stressful for children, and it will undermine your child's sense of security in their whole life, and it will leave them feeling a bit helpless and a bit vulnerable, and especially if the event stemmed from an act of violence such as a mass shooting or a terrorist attack or domestic violence. So even kids or teens not directly affected by disaster can become traumatized when repeatedly exposed to horrific images of the event on the news or social media. And whether your child lived through the disturbing event or not, if they witnessed it or if they experienced traumatic stress in the aftermath, then they are likely to be affected by an array of tense, intense, confusing, and frightening emotions. And whilst the unpleasant symptoms may fade over time, there's plenty that you can do as a parent or guardian to support and reassure a traumatized child. Using these coping tips, you can help your child manage symptoms of traumatic stress and rebuild their sense of safety and move on from the traumatic event. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the signs and the symptoms of traumatic stress in kids and teens. Now, you have to remember, I'm looking at this from a domestic abuse angle. And whilst we try to shield our children from seeing the worst of it or hearing the worst of it, they hear it and they see it, even though we're trying to protect them from it. So they still know it's happening, and it still undermines their entire sense of security because you're not safe. They're not safe. They start to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. They're smarter than we give them credit for. So it really is important that you take into account your child's stress and trauma response that they get to through these incidents, because if you leave it, then it will all accumulate, and then further down the line they will crash, and you won't know why, but it will be because their stress bucket is just too full, it's overflowing, and they just stop functioning properly. And that's when the real problem lies. And that was the route that we went down. Yay! Because I didn't know what to do. I just did the best I could with the information I had at the time. I didn't know what to do. All I knew was to try and be a good mom as best I could. But anyway, we're going to go back. I don't want you guys to fail in the ways that I did, or have to take the long route to, it took 11 years before my son crashed. Now, I'm sure that you would rather stop your child from suffering 11 years of stress and trauma buried inside of them, I'm sure you'd rather deal with it when it first happens, because if I'd realised what was happening, I would have dealt with it. But I didn't realise. So there we go. So the signs. So traumatic stress is a normal reaction. Normal. Okay, so this is not their fault. This is just a normal reaction to a natural or man-made disaster or other disturbing event. And it can leave children of any age feeling overwhelmed by stress and trigger a really wide range of intense emotions. And it can cause them to physically act out, or behavior goes off the scale. And these in turn can affect your child's mood, their appetite, their sleep, and their overall well-being. So if it's a child under 2, they may fuss or be harder to soothe. They may exhibit changes in their sleeping or eating patterns, and they may appear withdrawn. Children from 2 to 5, they may show signs of fear. They may cling to the parent or caregiver more. They may cry, scream, or whine more. They may move aimlessly or freeze up. And they might regress to earlier childhood behaviours such as thumb sucking or bedwetting. And children aged 6 to 11, they may lose interest in friends, family, or activities they used to enjoy. They may experience nightmares or other sleep problems. They may become moody, disruptive, or angry. They may struggle with school and homework. And they may complain of physical problems such as headaches or stomach aches. And they may develop unfounded fears. They may feel depressed, emotionally numb, or guilty. They may feel guilty. They may feel like they caused it. And then when you've got the older children, the adolescents, they're aged 12 to 17, they might have flashbacks. They might have nightmares or sleep problems. They might avoid reminders of the event. They might abuse alcohol, drugs, or nicotine products. They might act disruptive or disrespectful or aggressive. They might complain of physical ailments. They might feel isolated, guilty, or depressed. And they might lose interest in hobbies and interests. And they might have suicidal thoughts. Now, if you think about it, your child may not just have a simple one big thing happened and that's traumatized them. They may have witnessed multiple events. They may have heard multiple events. They may have known multiple events of violence against you in the home. And in that situation, you then start to go into a complex PTSD situation, because it's not just one thing, it's so many different things, and they have to deal with that in a much I don't want to say a much more aggressive way. I don't mean more aggressive way. I mean, they have to tread on that path to recover much more carefully, shall we say. It takes some deeper skills and understanding to really help a child that's going through that situation. And that might be a professional, that might be somebody that's been through it and come out the other side. So you get to pick and choose who helps your child, but the important thing is they get some help from wherever they're going to get it. Hopefully a good place, not a bad place. So whatever the age of your child is, really important that you give them extra reassurance that they're safe following a traumatic event. And with your love and guidance, the unsettling thoughts and feelings of traumatic stress can start to fade, and your child's life can return to normal in the days or weeks following the crisis or disturbing event. Now, when it comes to helping your child cope with a disaster or a traumatic event, your child's reaction will be greatly influenced by your own response. They will follow your lead. They will look to you for guidance on how to behave. Children of all ages, even independence-seeking teenagers, they will look to their parents for comfort and reassurance at a time of crisis. And if you experience the traumatic event alongside your child, it's crucial to take the steps to cope with your own traumatic stress. Even young infants can pick up on their parents' anxiety and stress. So even if it's a baby, they will know that something is wrong. Okay? By taking care of your own emotional health and well-being, you will be more of a calming influence and better able to help your child. Since the childhood impulse to imitate is strong, if your child sees you taking steps to cope with the effects of the trauma, they are likely to follow. And I have also found that sharing my healing journey helped my child because he wouldn't talk to anybody else. He just internalized everything, and he didn't necessarily tell me everything. But me talking about what I was doing and what I was going through and what I was, sort of working on from an internal sort of recovery process helped him to process some of his demons as well. So it is important, and if they see that you are not too big, too big, strong, and proud to take help, then they'll take help too. It really is important to remember that all kids react in different ways, and their feelings can come and go in waves. So they might be moody and withdrawn 1 minute, and then frozen with grief and fear the next. There's no right or wrong way to feel after a traumatic event. So don't try and dictate. Don't tell them to just man up and stop whinging about it. Don't tell them to just get over it already. That doesn't help. All that is doing is shaming them for having those feelings, which isn't going to help them to be able to express those feelings to you, to be able to help them get rid of them. So shaming the child achieves absolutely nothing. What does achieve something is some tips and tricks that I'm going to go through in a second. So there is always no right or wrong. There is always different perspectives, different opinions, and it's important to remember that everybody is entitled to their own opinion. You are only able to control your own behaviors and thoughts and feelings, and your child is able to control their. Well, once they get to a certain point, they can control their thoughts and feelings and actions a lot better. And it's a learning process for them. And sometimes they will screw up, and that's okay. All that matters is not that it doesn't matter that they've screwed up. What matters is how they pick themselves up and dust themselves off and start again from where they fell down. So they don't have to go all the way back to the beginning. They can just pick up from where they left off and just carry on. Because we made mistakes. Jesus, we've made thousands, millions of mistakes in our lifetimes. But nobody's going to beat us up about it. So why would we beat them up about it? So lead by example here. So encourage your child to openly share their feelings. So let them know that whatever they're feeling is normal, and even the bad feelings are going to pass. And if your child opens up about them, then that gives the opportunity for those feelings to be heard and to pass a lot quicker than if they are not encouraged to open up about them. And lots of teenagers are reluctant to talk about their feelings with their parents. So encourage them to have a friend or another trusted adult, grandparents, relative, teacher, priest, whoever. It's important to talk even if it's not with you. And it's really important to allow them to grieve any losses. So giving your child time to heal and to mourn any losses that they may have experienced as a result of the disaster or traumatic event. And that could be the loss of a friend, a relative, a pet, a home, or simply the way their life used to be. So they need to grieve the loss of their family unit, essentially, because their family unit has changed. So they're grieving the loss of their parents' marriage. That's okay. They're allowed to feel that grief. They need to feel it to be able to move on. And discourage your child from obsessively reliving the traumatic event. So going it over and over and over again in their brain, it does not help them. Getting them to talk about it, the actual incident, that's not helpful. What you want them to do is you want them to stop continually dwelling on or replaying footage of the event, in their heads, because it can overwhelm their nervous system. And encourage them to do activities that will keep them occupied, keep their brains occupied, so they're not solely focusing on what happened. You can read to the child, play games together, watch a movie, go to the skate park, learn a new skill, cook some food in the kitchen, cook some biscuits, do some baking in the kitchen. Distraction is a wonderful thing. especially when the children are younger. When the children are older, it's a little bit harder to get them to interact. However, I always find that car rides are brilliant for talking because there's no eye contact required. You're sat side by side, or one's in the front, one's in the back, and you can actually have a conversation. I also find that things like baking bread, kneading dough, punching the hell out of pizza dough, punching the hell out of the bread that they're kneading, that's not going to hurt them. It's going to allow them to release the aggression, and you get fresh pizza or fresh bread out of it. That's a win-win as far as I'm concerned, all around. So, things like that will help. Something that they can do that will maybe help them to release the anger inside of them, because sometimes they feel so angry because of what's happened, because they couldn't stop it, because they couldn't help you, because it shouldn't happen. Sometimes they feel so angry, and sometimes they're angry at themselves. If I'd been stronger, then Dad wouldn't have hit Mum. If I'd been stronger, I could have stopped him. No, what would have happened is if you'd been stronger, then Dad would have hit you instead. It's as simple as. It doesn't just stop at the mum. It very easily transfers over as soon as the child becomes an adult, effectively, or the same size or bigger. The situation changes, and then you have the lion coming in and getting ready to kill all the cubs, as my son describes it to me. But yeah, just distract, and whatever that looks like, that could be, come on, let's go and get, we need some milk, let's walk for a change, let's go for a walk to the shop, or the dog needs walking, come on, off you go, send them out to walk the dog. Anything, the bathroom needs cleaning, come on, let's all do it together. It'll take 10 minutes if we do a bit each. Just anything to distract them would be brilliant. Even if it's sitting on the floor playing blocks with them, because they might talk when they're playing blocks, because the focus is not on them, the focus is on the blocks, and they might just start to talk, or they might want to talk. For me, it was always bedtime. Bedtime was a special time, and bedtime was a time when we would talk about everything, and I would talk to him and sing to him and read him stories until he fell asleep, and I would always be there until he fell asleep to help him feel safe. And that was a very special time for us, having that moment every night when he knew it was just us, no distractions, no interruptions. I would lay down with him in his bed, fully grown adult in a tiny little toddler bed, and we would just snuggle up and have a chat. De-stressing as a family, that's really, really important, because if you've got more than two of you, more than, like parent and child, then what often happens is that everybody kind of does their own thing and they go off on their individual directions. Whereas if you can pull everybody together and do some breathing exercises, do a meditation, do some yoga, say, right, kids, come on, I need to do a fitness routine. You might not need to at all, but, just little white lies not going to hurt them. Let's do some Tai Chi. Yeah, and you can do it together, and you can have a laugh when somebody falls over, and you can laugh at each other when something goes wrong. You can laugh at yourselves, but anything to just bring you as a unit together. One of the biggest things when you have a child that's gone through trauma is rebuilding their sense of trust and safety. And trauma can really change the way that a child or a teenager sees the world, making it seem suddenly a really dangerous and frightening place. And the child might find it more difficult to trust both their environment and other people. And you can help by rebuilding your child's sense of safety and security. So making your child feel safe again. So things like hugging, reassuring them can help make a child of any age feel secure. And to be fair, my child is now 19. I still call him the boy. I still call him a child, because to me he will forever be small. But for me, I kind of insist on therapy hugs on a regular basis, and he screws up his face every single time. So I kind of go in for a therapy hug, and he's like, and he does it out of habit. You know, he doesn't hate it at all. I think he secretly loves the hugs, and because he's a very affectionate son, and we have a very, very close bond. But he he has to protest in his own little way, and we know that he doesn't mean it, but it's about that safety and security. We have regular hugs because I'm a hugger. That's the way I am. So physical affection is really, really important in making them feel safe, and encouraging your child to pursue activities that they enjoy. So if they've got like a really full, overwhelming schedule, then maybe look at taking a few things out. Maybe asking them to prioritize the top two things that they want to do, and maybe involve them in the decision-making process if possible, because they need to have time to process. They need to have time to rest. They need to have time to have fun, just de-stress. My house was pretty much open house. I would feed whoever was here. So if there were 6 kids for breakfast, there were 6 kids for breakfast. If there were, you know, sort of just one child for dinner, then there's just one child for dinner. Sometimes it would be 1, sometimes it would be 3, sometimes it would be 5. It didn't matter. I'd just feed whoever's here. And if you have a routine, that really, really helps, because when you have a predictable structure and a schedule, your child's life can help make the world seem safe again, safer, stable. And trying to maintain regular times for meals, homework, and family activities, even if you've got it all up on a whiteboard, you know, in the kitchen, or, you know, on a bit of paper taped to the fridge. Doesn't have to be fancy. Just, you know, sort of sit down on a Sunday and plan out the week. All sit down together after Sunday dinner. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Speak of the future. Make plans, you know. Sometimes when children are traumatized, they feel that the future is scary and bleak and unpredictable. They just feel that it's completely unsafe. Whereas if you've got a plan, whether that be, right, okay, in 3 weeks' time, we're going to have a day out trip to the beach. Yeah, we're all going to go to the beach. Or next weekend, we're going to go and visit that big tower up on the hill. We're going to park at the bottom, we're going to walk up, and we're going to have a picnic there. Whatever it is, whatever the activity is, you know, trampoline park, bowling, Nerf battles, swimming, whatever the activity is, just, you know, just make plans, have things in the diary that they're going to do with you, and keep your promise. This is a big, big one, and I had to learn all these things the hard way, but keeping your promise, that is something that I have always been absolutely consistent with. And if I said I was going to do something, I would do it. If I said no to something, that meant no. If I said that if you do that one more time, I'm going to take that away from you, then I did. Because the kids need consistency, but the kids also need to know that they can trust you're going to do whatever it is that you say you're going to do. So if you keep your promises and keep your word in everyday things, then when the big things come up, they know that they can trust you. So trust is a massive, massive thing. You know, be consistent, follow through. If you're saying you're going to do something, then you just have to do it. If you're not prepared to promise, then you don't make that statement. And my son knows full well that, you know, if I promise something, I'll do it. If I don't promise it, then, you know, it may or may not happen. So, and I'll be honest, and I'll say, I can't promise this because this is out of my hands. This is not mine to promise. Minimizing media exposure. So if, for example, like me, your thing ended up in court and then it ended up in the newspaper, you don't necessarily want your kids reading all of the gritty, nitty details. Don't let your child watch the news or check social media before bed. Use parental controls on your TV and on the phones to prevent your child from repeatedly viewing bad footage or disturbing footage of any incidents. And as much as you can, if there are news reports on the event, then sit with the child while they're watching it and help place the information in context. So kind of, translate it into age appropriate language so that they understand. But try and avoid letting them see graphic images and videos. If they see you walking around with black eyes and a beat up face and half your teeth missing, every time they look at you, that's going to keep traumatizing them right back to that moment when they heard you screaming and they could do nothing to help you. A little bit of covering up might be beneficial for the well-being of your child so that they don't see that. I'm not saying hide the truth. They need to know the truth, but in an age-appropriate manner. And you can't will your child to recover. You can't just think, oh, I want my child to recover, and then poof, magically they recover. It doesn't work like that. But you can play a major role in the healing process by just spending time together and talking face to face, away from the phones, away from the video games, away from the other distractions, and do your best to create an environment where the kids feel safe to communicate what they're feeling and they feel safe to ask questions. Because if you give them the opportunity to ask questions, then it starts to be much more of a two-way conversation. Now, provide your child with ongoing opportunities to talk. This doesn't just go away when you've talked about it once. It doesn't. Ask about, what they went through or what they're seeing in the media. Encourage them to ask questions and express their concerns, but don't force them to talk because they have their own healing journey just the same as you did. So for me, it took me 11 years to actually recognize that I was so broken from what I'd gone through. And my family had a bit of an intervention and kind of insisted that I had this therapy to help me get better. And I can't believe now quite how boxed in I had become. I was just a shadow of myself. And I think they're probably regretting it now because I'm just like, So never mind. Sorry, Mum. Sorry, Vic. I'm just gone a bit loud now. Communicate with your child in an age-appropriate way because the little kids don't need to have big details. Just simple things like it's over now. It's all going to be okay. But older children, they will need to know more about what happened and what's going to happen so that they can process that, because otherwise their minds will start making up stories that aren't true and they aren't helpful, and they'll end up catastrophizing the situation, and then it'll just get completely out of hand. You need to acknowledge and validate your child's concerns, and they might have fears about it happening again. They might have fears about other things happening, other issues that they're worried about. And comfort for your child comes from feeling understood and accepted by you, no matter what. We had a book here called No Matter What. And even now, if I say to him, no matter what, he knows that we're talking about that book. Because the book was called No Matter What, and it basically went along the lines of, if I was a crocodile, would you still love me? I will love you no matter what. What if I was a giraffe? Would you still love me? Of course I would, no matter what. And it's about that acceptance, regardless of what has happened, regardless of what they've done. I love you. You are my child. I am here for you. And by allowing them to speak, you are giving them that opportunity to heal. If you don't allow them to speak, how are they going to heal? You need to reassure them. It wasn't their fault. None of this was their fault. You love them, and it's okay for them to be angry or upset or scared. It's absolutely okay for them to feel however they feel. It's as simple as that. And one of the things is pressurizing your child into talking. You can't pressurize them. Just like you had your own journey, they will have their own journey. They will talk when they are ready. They will talk when they can trust you. They will talk when they have processed it. They will talk in their time frame, not yours. Okay? It might take days, it might take months, it might take years before they share. But no matter what, it's okay. So little kids might find it easier to draw out what they're feeling. Bigger kids, teenagers might be more on the talking side. Whatever works for your child. It really is whatever works. And you know your child better than anybody else. So just use that to your advantage. Being honest. While you should tailor the information that you share according to your child's age and personality, honesty is important. Don't say nothing is wrong if something is wrong. Just explain in an age-appropriate manner. And do normal activity with your child. That has nothing to do with a traumatic event. Get your kid to get friends and go out scootering or to the skate park or sports or hobbies that they enjoyed before the incident. Go on family outings to the park. Go have a games night, watch a movie. All scoot up on the sofa and get a quilt downstairs and just, eat popcorn and chocolate and just watch Dirty Dancing or some other movie that's just going to make everybody feel good at the end. And the next one is physical activity. So physical activity is vital, absolutely vital, because when you have an active child like I had, you need them to burn off some of that energy, and it helps them sleep. It gives them endorphins that are mood enhancing. It burns off adrenaline, and it really does help them to feel better. So find a sport that your child enjoys, and activities like baseball, basketball, soccer, running, martial arts, swimming, anything that kind of keeps them moving, because anything that needs them to move arms and legs can help rouse your child's nervous system from the stuck feeling that often follows a traumatic experience. And you can offer to participate. There's a lot of places that do parent and child martial arts classes where you train together. Or it might be that, if they don't want to get off the couch, then you can play some of their favourite music and dance together. And once they get moving, it will change their whole state. It will start to bring in that energetic feeling to them. Even if it's like, okay, you're in the kitchen, you're doing the washing up. Okay, put the radio on and start messing about. Blow some bubbles, let it land on their hair. Grab a handful of soap suds off the top and just go blow it at them. Have a bit of fun. Just have a laugh. But remember, you've got to take what you give. So, remember that you can't have one rule for you and one rule for them. There's got to be equal rules here. Encourage them to have friends and to go outside and play. If you've got a pet, encourage them to take the dog out for a walk or to play with the cat, and just blowing off some steam. And try going out as a family. Go out on your bikes, or go to a hiking trail or a lake, or spending time in nature can really help ease stress and boost a child's overall mood. And especially now, you've got all the birds singing in the trees. You've got the hum of the insects that are doing their thing. And I'm very fortunate in that I live very, very close to a massive national park, and I get to go out there every day, and it's amazing. And that is a joy for me to just stand there sometimes and just listen. Even if I can't walk very far that day, then I can still enjoy the feeling that you get from nature. So it's really important. If you can, just get some green time, and take the little ones to the playground. take them to the activity centre, take them to Sibbity Sam's, the bounce park or whatever, just to help them to get active. They will need it to burn off their energy. And then feeding them is really important, giving them a healthy diet. And the food that your child eats can have a massive impact on their mood and their ability to cope with the stress. And processed and convenience food, refined carbs, and sugary drinks and snacks can create mood swings and worsen symptoms of traumatic stress. We know that then those things are not good for the bodies. It's important. I have a weird child that likes to eat frozen peas as a snack and would eat raw broccoli. I would literally sit him in the trolley. I would go around the store. The fresh veg was one of the first kind of aisles that we hit, so I would have fresh veg in the trolley, and I would hand him the head of broccoli to keep him quiet because he would ask for it. And then by the time we got to the checkout, there would be all these chunks missing at the top of it where he'd eaten bits of broccoli. Weirdest child ever, but hey, he liked it. So when you get them eating lots of fresh fruit and veg, high quality protein and healthy fats, and especially omega-3 acids, that can help your child or teen better cope with the ups and downs that follow these experiences. And if you limit fried food and sweet desserts and sugary snacks and cereals and refined flour, because they can all negatively affect a child's mood. And there's various cookbooks and information books that you can buy that will tell you all about the best kind of diet to eat, and it's about finding the right kind of diet for you guys. So not necessarily what everybody else is doing, but what works for you. So whether that be batch cooking or meal prepping, meal planning, sort of getting in the shopping, knowing that this is Monday's food, this is Tuesday's food, this is Wednesday's food. However you do it, that's fine. But it's just important that you do it. And cooking more meals at home is so key, because when you're in a restaurant or you're at a takeout, they add sugar, they add unhealthy fat. So just cooking at home can make a massive difference to your kids' health. And if you make large batches, cooking just a few times can be enough to feed your family for the whole week. And I completely agree. Thursdays for me are always a very busy day, so I pick out a freezer meal. Now, it's not a freezer meal in the sense of you buy it from the shop and you stick it in the freezer and you ping it in the microwave. It's a meal that I have made, and I might cook for one, and then I might cook for 4, eat my portion that night, and then I've got 3 portions in pots that go in the freezer that I can have other nights. So I always have food in the freezer that I can just grab out and just ping in the microwave. But it's not microwave meals. It's not full of added sugar. It's not full of chemicals. It's not full of fillers and flavor enhancers and E numbers. It's good wholesome food that I've made. I know exactly what's in there. So tonight I have Italian vegetable bake. Brilliant. It's fabulous. It will take 3 minutes to heat up in the microwave. Good as gold. No problem at all. And meal times can be so much more than just food. So if you have any way of doing it, then sitting at a table and everybody communicating at the table is a massively good thing to do. So it's a way to encourage conversation. It's a way to basically bond further. It's a way to find out what's going on in people's lives. It really does make a difference. And it's an opportunity to talk and listen to your child without the distraction of TVs, phones, or computers. And what you can do is you can have a penalty. So you can say, right, okay, all the phones in the middle of the table, the one that rings first is doing the washing up. You can make that happen. And then there are times when you have to hand it over to the professionals, and there are times when you need to seek professional help for your child's trauma, because usually their feelings of anxiety, numbness, confusion, guilt, and despair following, sort of a traumatic event will start to fade within a relatively short time. But if the traumatic stress reaction is so intense that it interferes with the child's ability to function at school or home, or if the symptoms don't begin to fade or even become worse over time, they may need help from a mental health professional. And when traumatic stress symptoms don't ease up and your child's nervous system remains stuck, unable to move on from the event for a prolonged period of time, then it could well be post-traumatic stress disorder. So the warning signs include 6 weeks have gone by and your child is not feeling any better. Your child's having trouble functioning at school. They're getting really bad, terrifying memories, nightmares or flashbacks. And symptoms of traumatic stress manifest as physical complaints such as headaches, stomach pains or sleep disturbances. Your child is having an increasingly difficult time relating to friends and family, and your child or teen is experiencing suicidal thoughts. Your child is avoiding more and more things that remind them of the traumatic event. I have some suicide prevention in traumatized kids and teens, because if you have a child or a teen that is giving you any kind of indication that they are contemplating suicide, it must be taken seriously. It's not just a warning sign that your child or teen has been thinking about it. It's a cry for help. And, please read suicide prevention or call a suicide helpline. I think today's talk about trauma in children, yes, it's gone on a bit longer than I normally take. However, I felt it was very important to cover. And I know that there's been a lot of useful information in there. So please feel free to rewind, replay this, share it with anybody that you think it would be beneficial for. If you want to talk to somebody, you've got domestic violence hotlines, you've got charities that support women in abusive situations, but you've also got me. So, you're more than welcome to give me a shout, sort of hit me up in the comments, send me a DM, send me a message through my website. However you want to do it, that's absolutely fine.